month of the Mad God is finally here, and god damn does it bring quite the update. This is definitely the biggest update so far for Realm of the Mad God. The game has fully changed. Before we dig into the goodies, just a heads up that I won't be covering the month of the Mad God events and some other smaller changes, but be sure to check the patch notes which you can find in the description if you want to see the full breakdown. So, what does this update bring to us? Vital combat, class balance, status effect tweaks, exaltations, dungeon redesign, and some other cool stuff. So first up is the big one, vital combat. This mechanic transforms everything. And what I mean by this is it's pretty much a pet nerf. That's right, pets have finally been nerfed. Basically, if you get hit for a certain amount of damage, you are put in an in-combat state for 7 seconds. While in combat, your vitality and wisdom regeneration is halved, and your pet will take an additional 2 more seconds per heal. Max divine pets heal every second, but now if you're in combat, you'll get a heal every 3 seconds from your divine pet. You can tell when you're in combat when this icon glows, and when your HP bar glows too. Oh, and I also mentioned wisdom and vitality regeneration are halved while being in combat. It's not exactly halved though. It's the same regeneration we always had. But when you're out of combat, both wisdom and vitality regeneration are doubled. That means a warrior outside of combat goes from 75 vitality to 150 vitality. 75 vitality is about 9 HP per second. 150 vitality is about 18 HP per second, which is actually pretty decent. I know it's a long shot from 90 HP per second from a max divine pet, but this is intended to make the game more challenging. There are certain factors that meddle with this vital combat mechanic, which is vitality and defense. So, for defense, how do you get in combat in the first place? You get it when you're hit by a certain amount of damage, and this is dependent on how much defense you have. A wizard with 42 defense will go into combat when he gets hit by a shot that does at least 33 damage. A knight with 78 defense will go into combat when he gets hit by a shot that deals at least 48 damage. Shots that deal less damage than the threshold don't put you in combat. You just lose health as usual. So the higher the defense of your character, the higher the threshold for taking damage to get into combat. As for vitality, when you get hit into combat, your health and mana regeneration is slowed for a base 7 seconds. But for every 10 vitality you have, your in-combat duration is reduced by half a second. So a max wizard with 40 vitality going in combat will stay in combat for 5 seconds. A warrior with 75 vitality will only be in combat for about 3.5 seconds. The minimum duration for the in-combat debuff is 1 second. So overall, this is a strong nerf to pets, also known as a main source of healing. What do I mean by this? Well, the main difficulty in this game lies in the endgame dungeons, and most shots, if not all shots, in endgame dungeons will trigger this in-combat mechanic. So this really pushes you to start dodging. The cool thing is, defense is now more valuable to your character, and same goes with vitality, as these two stats reduce the amount of time you are in combat. Next up is class balance. Now this is interesting, and it's good news. Mostly. First up, damaging and berserk have reduced effectiveness. Damaging now only multiplies your damage by 1.25, and berserk multiplies your fire rate by only 1.25 as well. Curse has been made more potent, making enemies take 25% more damage instead of 20. The armored status effect is also nerfed, and now gives you only 1.5 times more armor instead of double the armor. Ones all across the board have been buffed by a significant amount. Sorcerer finally feels like he can hit hard for once, and I'm really hyped. Daggers have all been tweaked too, most of them being buffed. The idea they're going with here is the shorter the range of the dagger, the more damage it deals. And Dirk of Cronus is finally one of the best daggers in the game, now beating its long-lasting enemy, the Aetheryte dagger, which got quite a hammering in DPS. Same goes with the Ripper. This dagger is now booty cheeks. Seals have also received quite a hammering. They no longer heal like tomes, they simply increase your max HP. Now when you press spacebar, you just get increased max HP without the heal. So now on to tomes. Yeah, I don't think Samuel's coming back. I guess it's time we think of a new mascot for my channel. All tomes are nerfed to the ground pretty much. They have increased mana cost, they have a smaller radius and heal for less. And on top of that, there's this new thing with tomes. The more allies that are healed by the tome, the less potent the heals are. Basically think of it like this. If you heal one guy, you heal him for 200 HP. If you heal 10 guys, each of them only get 30 HP from your tome. Sounds quite bad, right? Well, to make matters worse, one of the best tomes for this class got nerfed, the Tome of Purification. This tome no longer removes debuffs for the group, it only removes debuffs for the person using it. Overall, this looks like a fat loss for the priest, but remember we have nerfed heals all across the board, from pets to paladins, so the heals from priests are still important, if you still want to play as a healer. Let's bring some good news to the table. The Bard has got quite the hot buff. Tiered loots now give increased defense to the whole group, not just themselves. So using a tier 6 loot means everyone in the radius of the loot gets 7 defense. That's a mini marble seal for the bard. I'm honestly really happy with this one. Now bard is truly a great support class. Oh, by the way, since seal's got a heavy beating, they've decided to increase the paladin's stats. It now has 55 max attack, 55 max dexterity, and 60 max vitality. So, I don't know, it's alright. Oh, and since we lost group purification, to balance things out, status effects from all over the game got tweaked. Onto Exaltations. This is a new endgame goal for all you veteran players. Exaltations are basically permanently increasing the stats of your characters across the board. A fully exalted character will have plus 5 in all stats and plus 25 HP and MP. These sound small, right? But really it isn't. The DPS boost a crown gives is large. Just look at this. This is a set without a crown, and this is a set with crown. It's a large jump. So with exalted stats, you can now slap a crown on top of the crown with the plus 5 attack and plus 5 dexterity we can get. How do you get these stat increases? You complete certain endgame dungeons a number of times. Each dungeon contributes to a different stat. Let's take the nest as an example. Do the nest 5 times on a wizard and you permanently get 1 extra dexterity on your wizard, even if it dies. The next wizard will have the plus 1 dexterity. The thing is, your other classes won't get this boost. They'll have to complete the nest 5 times too. Basically, this is what it looks like. You will need to do 75 nests to get a permanent 5 dexterity on your wizard. Overall, you'll need to do 450 endgame dungeons for a fully exalted character. That's 7,200 endgame dungeons to fully exalt every character. Now that is heaps. But remember, this is a finalized goal which you're supposed to gradually get in years. This ain't a 3-day chest event. Even then, it does come with great rewards, and it's not just stat bonuses. There are secondary rewards. Depending on the number of stats you have exalted on certain classes, you can get increased XP gain, reduced in-combat duration, increased damage, and even increased drop rates. Dang. There's a line of cool rewards too you can get for overall exalted stats, such as these cool pet skins. Exalt 500 stats and you get this incredible 32x32 exalted Oryx pet skin. And you have no idea how much I want this. Then again, will I ever exalt 500 stats? Who knows? If you fully exalt all your classes, you get an additional 10% drop rate for everything. Honestly, by that point, it means you have done 7,200 endgame dungeons. You'll probably have every white bag there is by then. So who needs better drop rates? Whatever, all I know is I want this awesome skin. Next up we have dungeon reworks for a lot of the old dungeons. I won't go fully in depth on this. I recommend you take a look at them yourself. The visual overhaul of these dungeons are astounding. It really feels immersive. My personal favorite is the Abyss of Demons. From some bland red dungeon to an actual Abyss of Demons. These look really cool. The boss fights have changed too, and so have most of the enemies in these. For the final big change, almost every item in the game has increased drop rates. That's right, even event whites are more common. This is to balance the fact that the game is much harder now, with all sources of healing nerfed. Then again, we don't know how big of an increase in drop rates this really is. For all I know, Deca could be pulling the cheeky and making every item rarer, so we spend even more time on the game. There's another interesting tweak, tiered loot bias. This is a new implementation that is being experimented right now with low tier items. But basically you are more likely to get tiered loot relevant to your class's drops. So there's a higher chance of getting a katana and a star while you're playing on a ninja. All the PPE players are going to be like,